Hello and welcome to the Bonus Points podcast. I'm your host, Joe Garrett, as always being joined by Ollie Guy.
Hello.
And today we are welcoming a new friend to the Bonus Points, Sam Rookes. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much for having me. It was a lovely introduction. Thank you for the claps, Ollie.
No worries, mate.
We mentioned, Sam, in the last episode, we said that it was going to be interesting to get your perspective. And the reason for that is you're a director, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Writer, editor, director, CV, all over the place there. Yeah. So, yeah, should I just jump straight in?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, it's one of the most, cinematic games I've ever played and, one of the most, cinematic experiences I've ever had, outside of the cinema, right? And, yeah, I just think it's got such a rich, gotta go straight into it here, such a rich, deep story that is, so expansive and huge, but then, the gameplay itself and, just the whole thing is just so cinematic. I'm going to say this right at the front, it's one of my favourite things I've ever encountered in my entire life.
Brilliant.
Wow.
Cool. So would you consider yourself more of a film buff more than a gamer? You kind of made a joke when we just sat before recording. You're saying you're part of the gamers now. What would you consider yourself more of a film buff than a gamer?
Yeah, definitely. I've played Mario and everything growing up. Zelda. I was a Nintendo kid. Always played Tony Hawk and that sort of thing, but never really got into narrative gaming really until I played The Last of Us Part 1, which was during lockdown in 2020, the first one. Because, what else would you do to escape a pandemic than play a game about the collapse of civilization?
Seeing an even worse pandemic, it makes our ones not seem so bad.
Exactly. It could always be worse. I started playing Last of Us Part 1 during the pandemic because I knew Part 2 was coming out, and my friend Harry, who's a huge fan of the first one, just said that he thought I'd really like it. So I played that and then bought Part 2 pretty much straight away afterwards.
Obviously we're here to mainly talk about Last of Us Part 2. I just do a quick big spoiler warning. Just we're going to completely spoil this game. If you haven't played it, it's amazing. Also big mature content warning. This is, even more so than basically everything else we've played. It is an extremely violent game. I won't be showing the worst stuff in the video footage for the video podcast, but, we're going to be discussing it and there's no way to avoid the violence of the game. Before we get too deep into Last of Us Part 2, what were your thoughts of the first game, seeing as... it's so closely tied to Part 2. It's kind of hard to talk about just one without the other.
Yeah. I love Part 1. I think it's, amazing. It's obviously it's a much more streamlined story than Part 2. Yeah. And it's more A to B, I would say. And I love Part 1. Please don't shout at me in the comments. Again, it's very cinematic. I played the remastered version on PS4, so it's obviously been a little bit updated and everything. I think it's a really, really powerful piece of work. I think the story of Part 1, I don't think is as interesting as the story of Part 2, just because I think it is a bit more. As someone who watches a lot of films, I think it is. I've seen that done a little bit more. The father-daughter bonding journey, the people going on that harrowing journey together and then they overcome their differences. I think the gameplay is amazing in Part 1. I really love it, and it's obviously super brutal. And I mean, obviously, the opening of Part 1 with Sarah and everything, it just instantly sets you up that this game's not going to pull any punches, right? And then right up until the end, the very, very end. When you obviously you're left with that you don't know, did Joel make the right decision or not, and it's that ambiguity in the storytelling that I really love, and it's I think it's a very grown up game, right? I'm not saying anything revolutionary there. I think it's quite a grown up game rather than Super Mario 64.
I do actually have a question for you, Sam. You said you played Last of Us 1 in 2020. What was the last game you played before that?
Geez, man. It may have been Mario Kart on the Wii, or or even like Zelda Twilight Princess, which is another game that I love, because you're like, obviously the Zelda games, they've got a bit more like narrative to them, and than other Nintendo games.
The narrative of Mario Kart didn't grab you.
I mean, I love the simplicity of the Mario Kart narrative. It's it's a classic hero journey. But I think it's part one is a bit more it is a bit simpler, but that was it was 7 years before the sequel. No,
I think it was like 9 maybe.
It was quite a jump, because the first one was towards the end of PS3, and then Last of Us 2 was obviously right at the end of PS4, so it's kind of like a whole console generation. Ollie, I really want, this is what I've been waiting for ages. So obviously, Sam and I had both played this game before, and then we replayed it. This was your first time playing it. Can I just get just a general reaction after finishing this game, because you've been quite good at not giving anything away?
Shall I do the intro first? Because I've got the intro written down first.
No. First, just give me your. You don't have to go in depth, but just so when I finished this game, it blew my mind. I just couldn't believe I'd never played a game like it, and I was just like, how is someone so smart to put all of these pieces together and have them all at such a high quality? I just kind of almost couldn't believe that this thing exists. So I kind of just want to know, is that kind of align with you?
I mean, it's the most complete thing I've ever seen. The fact that everything is at that same level, where it's this is the best graphics you've ever seen. This is some of the best gameplay you've ever had. The best, everything is always at the top, the highest possible level. But my immediate reaction after finishing it was, oh my God, that was so exhausting. I don't know if I can even look at it ever again. And that image of Ellie sitting in the water is burnt into my brain. It's I feel like it's been so long since we've done one of these, because that game was, I feel like I was playing it for a year, even though it was only 2 weeks.
I wonder if the fact that we only had 2 weeks to play it and we were playing it so condensed made it like a bigger percentage of each of our days was in that world and with those characters, that maybe it was more overwhelming. But that's what I wanted, Ollie. You can set up what this game is now.
Okay, so according to the Wikipedia article, The Last of Us Part 2 is a 2020 action-adventure game developed by Naughty Dog and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment for PlayStation 4. Set 5 years after The Last of Us, which was 2013, so it was 7 years. The game focuses on 2 playable characters in a post-apocalyptic United States whose lives intertwine. And I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I mean, that's I guess as brief as a summary as you can get. Lives intertwined is such a funny sentence to summarize what ends up going on. So I guess it's so it's stealth, action, horror, and I think the action, the stealth, and the horror is all hugely elevated from the first game. I think talking about gameplay before story is probably the way to go, just because there's so much meat to the story. I think that's probably where we're going to end up kind of talking about the most. So obviously you've not played a huge amount of games, recently until the Last of Us game, Sam. I found the game's, it's very deep, the gameplay, along with the story. I think it's quite a challenging game as well. How did you kind of find, did you struggle with the combat at all?
Right, so yes, massively, because as soon as I hear the noise of the clickers, I nearly defecate myself, genuinely, that noise. So just going back to the part one very quickly. Part one, when you go into the basement of the hotel in part one, that is the only time that I've looked up a game walkthrough, just literally a YouTube video, because I could not handle walking around in that basement in the dark. So I just did it. I was like, I just need to get to that generator, do this and do that and get out. Yeah. And the noise of the clickers in that basement has just stayed with me forever. For the last couple of years. And part two, obviously the AI is much more advanced. Everything you can do as well is so much more advanced, going prone and going under cars and the dogs and everything like that. So yeah, I mean, I love it all, but the human combat I find much more enjoyable. But the combat against the infected, I just try and get done as quickly as possible, because I hate them so much.
What do you like for horror in general? Do you generally like horror, but this in particular because your playing made it worse, or do you just not like horror? Okay.
No, I love horror, but like I'm still like I'm not someone who watches loads and loads of horror films because I do get like very easily scared by them. Like, but it's usually more like real life situations, you know, like Scream, guy with a knife. That's to me is scarier than a Freddy Krueger type thing, right? In this though, it's the other way around. And I think it's like you said, it's because you play it, you are in control and you can't see behind you. Like that's the main thing I think for me, because like that's also, you know, the thing about difference in the reason why I love it so much. I think it's so just immersive and everything is because you are playing, and it's different to a film where you watch a horror film, because no matter if you look away watching a horror film, the action's going to carry on and the bad thing's going to continue. But you know, when you're playing the game, I've got to move, because if I don't move, I'm just going to be, you know, like hiding behind. I'm trying to think of when Ellie in day 2, I think it is, when she's in the newspaper offices of all the stalkers, you know, like I hate that section. So
God, yeah.
I've played the game 3 times now, and that section I always am just like, okay, I know where I need to run just to get out of it straight away.
Yeah. So just to explain it, so normally when you're playing, you can kind of hold R1, and it's basically meant to be the character listening out, but basically it lets you see the silhouettes of enemies through walls. But the stalkers don't make any sound, and they kind of hide behind cover and jump out at you. And it's like there's what the game constantly does in both the story and the gameplay is it kind of sets up a situation and then subverts your expectations, or you know, it allows you, you play in a certain way, and then we're going to introduce dogs that will be constantly tracking you, or like it knows probably from seeing people play the first game and from game testing, they know how people play to get through this stuff, and then they like do a twist so that way doesn't work anymore, and then you need to adapt to just keep putting you out of your comfort zone. Ollie, how did you find the
sorry.
No, sorry, go ahead, Sam.
I was just going to say, I think I broke the R1 button on my controller playing part 2. Just like holding it down constantly.
Just sellotape it down,
Yeah, but how did you find the gameplay compared to the first one, Ollie? Because obviously kind of going straight back to back, playing for them for the first time.
Yes.
Do you think it was different enough, like playing them so close together?
Yeah, like the gameplay is obviously a step up, and it is a lot harder for like lots of reasons you wouldn't really think about. Like the AI is obviously much smarter than the first one. Like bear in mind, I played the first one for the first time like not even 2 months ago. That's almost feels like an arcade game in comparison to this. And also the fact that there's so many things you can do, that means there's more places for it to go wrong, as in like not like break, but like more places for you to make a mistake and get, you know, jumped. And I found that this one was much harder than the first one. The first one was almost like a Yakuza game, like because Joel was so strong, you just run into a room of 4 guys, you could punch them all. With this one, it was like if you try and run towards an enemy, they will just gun you down like pretty much instantly. Like 2 shots, you're down. So there's no running towards enemies with bats, which is what I used to do in the first one.
I really felt they did learn, because often you'd go into a scenario and your first instinct is hide behind first cover and see where they're all going. But they would constantly have one person going to where your like the initial cover is, so they don't give you time to like plan ahead, which is I think what kind of made it much tougher. Yeah,
my strategy in the first game, which worked like 60% of the time in this game, is whenever I got to an area and I knew that there was other people coming, I would just sprint forward, because they're coming from the other end, right? So as long as I sprint forward and I meet them at 70%, then I've only got a little bit to go. And that kind of worked in this. But in this game, more than the first one, there's a lot of doors that you can't open unless it's safe. Yeah. So I would sprint, I'd get through them, then I'd be like, I'm just going to run, I can see the door. And I'd run and I'd hold down triangle, like, and then, like they would all just start shooting me. It definitely, I mean, it makes you think more about what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's definitely less arcadey.
What was your general strategy, Sam, for getting through, let's say, the human encounters? Because I do think the human encounters were more interesting. Did you kind of have, like, go-to weapons, or, like, were you stealthy, or kind of just action?
Well, see, it depends, and because I think you do have different styles of gameplay for Ellie and for Abby, because Abby is obviously more physically... Like, I don't know if there is actually anything different in the game models or anything, but when I'm Abby, I just want to run in and just like, you know, like...
There's
like
unique animations. Obviously, Ellie's got the knife and Abby doesn't, so Ellie will stab them and Abby would have to choke them out because she's got the strength to do that.
Yeah, and I think Ellie's more interesting to play stealthily, whereas Abby, I prefer to just, you know, go in like a tank, basically. But like, I think with Ellie, it's probably the bow and arrow is obviously like super fun. It's like, you know, the first like Seraphite encounter in the like with the glade of like ferns and stuff at nighttime. That's like, God, that's great. Like, yeah, it's just like so creepy. You hear them whistling and everything.
Yeah,
and
that
like,
first whistle, then the arrow comes as well is amazing.
And then just like picking them off like the bow and arrow is super fun. And then with Abby, it's like when you get your hands on one of those like the Seraphite's like big, like heavy, like axe type sledgehammer things. Yeah. Like that's so much fun. Like, this game's taught me a lot about myself that I don't think is very good, and that like I love inflicting pain on people.
I don't know if that's the emotion they were going for. That was good. That's your big takeaway from it. Like, hurting people is great. Always seek to hurt people.
On the first playthrough, it's horrible, and then by the time you're playing through the third time, or like one of the things you can do is like replay the chapters individually and encounters individually. Like, you can do that with like game mods and stuff as well. Like, that's so much fun. Like, slow motion, everything.
And did you do New Game Plus for this one, Sam? Yeah. So
no. For this one, I just did a new game because I've done New Game Plus before. Yeah.
Okay. Because that's one of the things that I did New Game Plus, Ollie, which means that like I kept all of my upgrades and all of my weapons from the first time. So in my first encounters, I had the shotgun and stuff all from the very beginning and all upgraded, which I think allowed me to experiment in combat scenarios that the first time I played through, I only had like a pistol or whatever. So that was quite fun and probably made it a bit easier for me this time than it was first time. But I think the cool thing with the combat in this one is they feel much more like puzzles compared to the first game. Like, there's a lot of serious scenarios where like you see a shop and it's full of clickers, and Sam just legged right past it, I'm sure. And you see loads of good loot all glinting away in there. But then they can't open the door and it's all glass windows. And normally clickers, it's like, oh, it's a clicker, I got to be quiet. But, I have to break the glass to get in there. So what's like the smartest way to do that? And that's one example, but there's just loads of situations like that where you just feel like the game developers are just in your brain the whole time, just guiding you through this.
I had quite a good, like you just described, there was a huge like wall of glass, like a huge window, floor to ceiling, with clickers behind it. And I had to get in, and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? But then I noticed that there was another window on the other side of the room and a little hole at the top of the window, at the top of this wall of glass. So I threw a bottle through the hole, smashed the window on the other side of the room, so they all ran over there. And then once they all calmed down, I just jumped through the window. But I was like, I'm so smart. It's probably fully what they intended, but
do you have any cool moments like that, Sam, of like kind of creative like problem solving?
I think actually, was it the first time? I think I remember playing with when the Seraphites, again, that first encounter with them, and like I just put down like a trap mine like right near, because they don't spawn until you go over like the ledge or something, and I just put a trap mine there just in case, and then that was just like, it just so happened to be that's exactly where the first person like walked like 10 seconds later. So not really creative problem solving, but I felt very smug with myself.
Yeah. One of my evil ones is just for the dogs chasing me, is you'd put down the mine, because they'd always chase where you go and you'd blow up the dog. Yeah. Which horrible it was. But
I mean, I love the classic, throwing a bottle just, like to distract someone, and then as soon as they're turned around, just sniper rifle and bam or something like that. And
I ended up always, if I'm stealthing, just always holding a brick or a bottle in my hand, because if they do see you, you've got time to throw it and then sprint up and grab them like as a last resort, and they don't alert anyone. So I was just spent half the game, instead of holding a gun, just holding like a Budweiser bottle as I'm like sneaking through it all. But yeah, one of the things that I find so impressive, and I had several times where I just made notes of moments like this, is the way that they can guide you and tell you what to do without like waypoints or like big arrows or lines. Like, there's one moment, I think it's the second time you play as Abby in the snow, and you're sneaking and you see like one infected coming towards you, and so you just naturally kind of go around to the side, but then there's like another one there. And then you kind of keep going, then eventually you keep going, then there's like 3 come, and then you back off, and then you see the way you were coming from, there's like 4 or 5 of them, and then naturally you're like, oh, I'm overwhelmed, I need to run, and then you start running, and then it's like a big chase sequence. But in like any other game, they would have to have the character say, oh, too many to fight, I gotta run, or like have a pop-up saying like, escape the enemies or something, but they just know how people are going to act, and they can just subtly guide you. And then another one like that a non-combat one, is when you're going to Joel's house and you're going upstairs to, I think, collect the watch, I think is what you're going to grab.
Yeah.
And then Dina just says like, oh, you go ahead, I'll wait down here, or like, I'll hang out down here. And it's such a natural thing that someone would say, but it's basically saying the thing you need to get is upstairs, but without telling you to like go upstairs. And once you start looking for those moments and how subtly they're done, it's just like, it's just amazing. I just couldn't believe it. Like, and especially going back to back from just playing Enslaved, where like the things you have to climb literally are glowing. They like flash at you, like as if someone's putting a spotlight on them, and they're still hard to see, and we still keep missing them. And then this game where nothing seems out of place, nothing looks like they just put a box there for you to climb up, but you always know where to go. Even if you're squeezing through some little tiny bit, you always just somehow know, whether it's just the use of color or lighting, or if it is some subtle dialogue. Like, I never once had to use like the hint system to know where to go, just because the level design was so good.
Yeah, like towards the end, I was literally thinking like, I need to just trust my instincts, because I always seem to go the right way. So whatever way it's telling me to go, like whichever way I feel is the right way is probably the right way, or it will eventually lead me to the right way.
Yeah, there's so many points where you can go different ways, and then it all works out somehow.
With you saying about the like subtlety of like telling you where to go, there's that first bit. You're either going into the theatre or coming out of the theatre. I think you're coming out after the first time you wake up in there, and all of the lights are on, but the spotlights, like the little standing spotlights, are pointing the way you should go. So the first one's like straight ahead, the next one's like left, and then there's one that's so you go around through the set, and then it leads you straight to the door. And it's just like, it's so clever, like, because obviously you're going to run in the light, you're not going to leave the light, so it's using that to guide you, and you don't even think about it. You're just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to run this way, and it seems to work out. I was quite surprised though that the only open world bit was Seattle Day 1, because when I got to there I was like, oh, there's probably going to be 4 of these and that's going to be the game, and then they just did 1, and then they were like, no, we're not doing that anymore. Which I was
I was the same, and I wish there was, because that was one of the really cool, and it's just the right size of an open world area where you can keep track of it all, like the way they do the map, like actually physically like adding in question marks to like hint at areas. I love that moment, but I do wish there was more of it. Like, did you enjoy that bit, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first one is like very linear, isn't it? Like, I think some people do describe it as like walking down like a lot of corridors, right? Like, and obviously part 2 is still that, but even those corridors just like a bit more open. But yeah, like it was really cool going in, and then like, cause obviously that's where you get the shotgun, isn't it, in the bank?
Yeah,
and, like, I wondered, like, because obviously you could miss that, right? So does that mean you go through the whole game without having the shotgun?
Yeah, well, like, I thought that as well the first time, but then there's multiple other places where you could get. So I think that's the first place you could get a shotgun. So actually, I remembered that bank sequence. I remember it being quite cool, but because I had to get the game completed, I was on New Game Plus, so I already had the shotgun. So I was like, I won't go in there. I was like, I'll do the music store, because I remember that being a nice scene, but I can skip the bank for this playthrough. But yeah, there's loads of missable stuff in that area, and I think that is a highlight.
We've just got a comment on Twitter from Taran5, who has pointed out that The Last of Us 1 had like dumpsters, pallets, wooden boards to move, while Last of Us 2 progression had more about finding the exit, and obviously now we're talking about the open world. Like, how far it is from The Last of Us 1 when you think of it like that. Like, the amount of times where The Last of Us 1, like putting a thing down, picking it up again, moving it, and now it's just like,
there's still a lot of dumpsters in part 2.
There is a lot of dumpsters. There is a lot of dumpsters.
But aren't they much more like,
no pallets?
They feel more natural. Like The Last of Us 1 felt very traditional. Here's the puzzle room, like almost like a Tomb Raider like tomb, like solve the puzzle in this room. Whereas in this one, it felt like a very much more natural obstacle. Like when you're first arriving at Seattle with Dina, and there's like the big gate, and there's just a few little puzzles. You kind of got to do a bit of a parkour puzzle to climb up, and then there's like you're trying to do power, and you're trying to throw this cable around. Like, it feels like, obviously it's a video game, and it's not completely realistic, but it feels like, oh no, this is an obstacle I got to get through, and as a coincidence you're solving a puzzle, rather than it feels like, I'm having a break from combat to do a puzzle. Like,
also,
I think
those ropes, I've never seen anything like that in a game. I can't believe how good they are. Like the way they move, and like the way you throw it and like can pull it back. I was just like, my god.
I remember that is very satisfying.
I remember like in Tomb Raider 1, the ropes were like just straight lines, and they just move further apart to show it turn like bending, and now we're doing this.
Yeah, just like 2 points with just a line between them, and then yes, and you can push that and stretch it, pun intended, as much as you want. That mechanic, it won't break. You can like spin it round things, put it through this window and back, and it just works out. And it's not the fact that it works and has the physics, but then the fact that it doesn't bug out. Like normally it'd be like they will try that, but at a certain point it go, and it'll spaghetti and it would all mess up. But and then they use it a decent amount, but you just feel like the time that people put in to like make that work for like the puzzles it's used for.
I will say though, like it is pushing my PS4 to its very limits. Like it sounds like it's going to take off when I'm playing it half the time.
So are you playing on an original PS4? Did you play it on?
It's one of the smaller ones, but yes, it's not like a Pro or anything like that.
Oh, okay. So how does I played this playthrough in a mixture between PS4 Pro and PS5. Then Ollie was on a PS5, right, Ollie?
Mm-hmm, that's right.
And so how did it run on the original PS4? Because I never played it on that.
Super smooth, man. Yeah, like even when it does sound very, very loud and very crazy, like it's still, it's like playing back like perfectly. Like I genuinely don't think I've had any bugs when I've played it. Yeah, like 3 times now.
I mean, it's got to be the best looking
of.
PS4 game as well. I mean, I think it rivals most PS5 or Xbox Series X games, to be fair. Like it...
like graphically as well. Unbelievable. The fact that the tips of their fingers
section,
Huh?
Sorry, you go on.
The tips of their fingers, you can like see the light hitting the back of them, and the tips of their fingers are like a different colour. And the ears, it's
the
just
light
stuff
shining
that
through.
like... Yeah, and that was
and it's not even that. It's the the reactivity of the world. Like they lean on like a fence where there's snow, and then like as they leave, like it's like the indents there. Because I feel like a lot of games make the trade off. Either it's a very reactive world where there's physics and something like a Valve game, like a Source game, where everything's got physics and it feels like you're in this world and things are moving. Or it's a beautiful game, but it's a film set, basically. Like you knock something and it's physically attached to the table. Whereas this is like somehow doing both on an original PS4. And like how? Like I guess being part of Sony, maybe they got like there's a little secret chip that only Naughty Dog's allowed to use, so they can get away with this stuff, because it is crazy.
I think it's like as soon as you start playing it, like you're Joel speaking with Tommy and everything, and then they hop on the horses and you're going through the the overgrown streets and stuff just outside of Jackson, right? And then you go over that hill and the sun just like breaks through, and you get like that lens flare and everything, and it's just ridiculous. Like it is ridiculous. I remember literally I was just sat there playing it, like I was just like, oh my god, like that is like so beautiful. Like I would love to make something that beautiful, and I have the actual world as my, like my thing to shoot it, and I will never make anything that beautiful. Yeah,
you feel like they know it on that scene as well. They're like, because like right at the beginning, they're just like,
exactly,
let me show you what you're in for here, guys. We know what we're doing.
I used to like when I was playing this one, I was trying to like find the limit of, because I always do that in games because I'm like a nerd. But like, there's a bit where you swim through some like moss or something. And I was like, what is the limit of this moss? Like, how much of it can I push around before it starts to break or reset? And like, I got bored before I could find the limit on like any of the things that I tried to break. So.
Yeah, like snow tracks and stuff. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'd be like, what if I just half step? Like, if I just kick it a little bit, does it still work? Yeah. Like, it just works every time.
And then just like the footprints in the snow as well, right? Like, yeah, like you're running through the snow and you're just like leaving like a perfect trail behind you, and you're kicking up like powder. Right, fresh snow as you run. Like, yeah. God, I love this game.
And then all like the subtle animations of like if you walk past a tree and they're like push it out of their face, or even in combat where like you'll get pushed up against something and it's just a reactive, like I guess like mini cutscene, whatever. But like it feels like they framed it and like what I'm banged into and like bent back over a counter or something. Yeah. Like there's so many of those tiny details. And you think of the amount of animations they did, and then they were like, oh yeah, but you could also play as like all of these different characters as well, like throughout the game, and they've got to do that all. Yeah, it's just the undertaking is just unbelievable. But
it shows in the product though, doesn't it? Like in that, like it is just like, I know I don't play many video games, but like it is like unlike anything I've experienced before. In that, like it is so immersive, and the combat, just going back to that quickly, like when you're fighting the Seraphites or something, and like I remember when you're Abby, I think it's on the second day, and you go up against like one of the big women, and like, you know, like really musty ones, they like come right at you, and I just remember like, you know, the controller starts like vibrating as they're like right up in your face, and like it's just like, it's so terrifying. But like, because it's just so like, in your face, it's just great.
It's weird, isn't it? It's one of those things that's hard to judge. Like, if it was you're watching it on TV, would it be as good, or is it good because you're in the middle of it? Like, is the TV show going to be as good as the game, or is it going to be like, well, you've taken away one of the best things, which is playing it?
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to judge, isn't it? Because it is amazing. Like, it's one of those things that I was playing, and I was like, I can't believe humans have made this.
Like, I think it would make a great show, like what this story was, but I think playing it is way better. Like, I kind of mentioned this, I won't go into it too much, but in the last podcast talking about the original Last of Us, is like, I'm just like, I feel like everything what they're doing is trying to play with your expectations. And I feel like the fact that the show is doing Joel and Ellie's kind of old story, like even if they do a twist, the fact that it's kind of going back to retell something feels so against the spirit of what The Last of Us seems to be, where it's like, we're going to take what, you know about storytelling and the way these games normally go, and we're just going to like constantly shock you. I feel like, I'm not saying it's going to be bad.
As far as we know, they're doing that. Because I was reading into this game, and they were like, apparently in the trailers, they were swapping the character models, so you didn't actually know what was going to happen.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, and that's what I think of. And like, I'm sure they're not going to follow the original game story to a T, and I'm sure there is going to be surprises and stuff. But the fact that it's even kind of going back there, I just find less interesting compared to like. So like, I want to know what was Alice the dog's backstory that we don't know about, and how's that the real? How are they the real villain somehow or something? You know, I want them to do something like that.
But like, it's interesting. So you're touching on the story there, like this, like you're saying, obviously it's very, very different. Like the story of part 1 and part 2, like they could not be further apart in construction, because part 1 is, you know, like literally a journey from, you know, one side of the country to the other, right? Like pretty much, or, you know, like a long distance over a year, essentially, isn't it? Whereas part 2 takes place for the most part over 3 days, and obviously it just isn't about that. It is like that much more self-contained thing, and I think that's why the characters can come to the fore a bit more in part 2, I think. Sorry.
Well, what I think it is you're absolutely right, but I think that for The Last of Us 1, I think that broke expectations of games in its day when it was released, and I think even by just having like an ambiguous ending, and like, is Joel good or bad? Are you good or bad? Like, does Ellie realize this? And like, not just ending with a like, and they saved the day and went off with the princess, you know, because that's what games of their day, generally their stories ended like. I feel like that was breaking their expectations, but games stories evolved since then, and now, you know, we have games like, you know, Red Dead Redemption 2, God of War, you know, we have these deeper, more narrative based games, even things like Life is Strange and those types of games. Whereas like, I feel like this went then a step above, and then was almost breaking, you know, those stereotypes where, you know, it was still generally kind of following a bit of a hero's journey, satisfying, tie the story up with a bow by the end of the game, you know, whereas this isn't that, you know, this is, you know, leaves you with many lingering emotions and feelings and questions by the end of it. And I think that's why some people weren't satisfied with it, and I think we will get to the controversy a bit later.
I would love to dig into that now, please.
So we got a question just first of all before we get into it. Connor Wyant on YouTube says, did any of you guys see the leaks beforehand? And if so, did it change the game for you going in? Yeah, Sam.
Well, I did. I knew about Joel because I'd never heard of the game. So basically my friend Harry, who I mentioned, really loves it. He was just telling me about how a lot of people online were losing their minds over this thing. And I was like, what are you telling me for? I don't care. I don't play video games. And then cut to like 6 months later, and I'm just like, oh no, don't hurt Joel, don't hurt Joel. So like I knew what happened, and I'm usually someone who's very much like, I try to avoid, you know, like spoilers and everything like that. But I don't know, it didn't change it at all. If anything, I think it made it more horrible. Like, because playing that first stretch around Jackson, like knowing that's coming, like, it's just like, I know that's just like not going to end well, right? Like, like obviously I can't say how it changed my enjoyment of it, but like I'm not that upset that I knew about it.
Okay.
But
Yeah, fair enough.
What about you guys?
Joe?
No, I wasn't spoiled. I was shocked by it.
Yeah,
I had no idea that was coming. Like, I didn't think it was just going to be another journey with Ellie and Joel going through. But I didn't know Abby existed. Like, oh man. So the thing with the story of this game is the way it drip feeds information and the way it ties, because it's full of jumping around in time and perspectives and flashbacks. And you think it could get confusing or random, or they're just doing it because they watched Pulp Fiction one night and they thought it's cool, but it's not. It's so clever the way they like the order in which they reveal this information. So when I'm playing as Abby, like I'm just like, who is this person? And you just don't know, and then you know that Ellie is angry at Joel, but you don't know why. But then that's like gradually and naturally revealed, and you don't know why does Abby go after Joel and why is she so fixated on this, and the way it kind of plays around and kind of shifts like that is amazing. And I think that getting any of that stuff spoilt would really affect it. But then again, now going through and this being my second playthrough and knowing where the story goes, it was really interesting playing it again and picking up on subtle little facial animations and kind of little tells and little mentions that what's going to end up leading to later, and also knowing the journey that Ellie goes on and her transition, and like seeing like like each step she takes down to that basement of where she ends up towards the end of the game. I think knowing that now, while it probably wasn't as interesting as the first time playing through, being in the dark, it was still very interesting, kind of, I guess, being in on it and kind of being able to observe it with all of the knowledge I found interesting. So this was your first go, Ollie. How did you kind of find that? Yeah, so I had kind of a weird
intro, because like I knew Abby was in it, but like because I only played Last of Us 1 like 2 months ago, I didn't see any trailers. I didn't see anything. I saw news stories about controversies, didn't know what they were, because I was like, I don't care about Last of Us, I'm not going to click on it. So those things all just passed me by. Weird thing going into this is that I knew there was a controversy. So I was the whole time thinking like, what is it? Like, what is it that everyone's so annoyed about in this game? And then the other thing was, I thought that Abby was one of the nurses from Last of Us 1 until it was revealed that she was the daughter, because obviously they show that bit at the beginning. Yeah. And I was like, they must be showing this for a reason, like, uh-oh, this isn't good. And obviously she goes in and just absolutely destroys Joel, which, like, it was full on, and I was like, oh my god, Joel. But then I was like, do you know what? Like, he had it coming. Like, he walked across America for a year stabbing people. Like, what did he think was going to, like, after, when it was done, I was like, okay, fair enough. Like, he does that to everyone else, it's going to happen to him. And then that was kind of the end of it. I was like,
I mean,
it was
apart from
sad,
the fireflies, that was all self-defense, right? In the first game, was there any times
no, it's never anything that you see, but they talk about how he always says like, I've done things, lots of things in my past as a smuggler and everything. Yeah, so you always get the impression that like he did like some like nasty stuff, like in those intervening. It's like a 20-year leap, isn't it, in the first game after Sarah?
But also, is it
maybe?
Is it even? Sure. Is it even self-defense if you're actively going out of your way to interfere with these people?
I mean, I think they were trying to travel through where those people live, but then people were trying to set traps and catch them and kill them or eat them or rob them or
either
whatever.
Way, what he did to Abby's dad was what he'd done to everyone. And if you do
all of those
like
other fireflies, the ones that were just
if you do things like that, this is what happens.
Guys, he literally doomed humanity. Because Ellie was potentially going to be the cure, and then he has like killed it's that classic thing of the one man who could have extracted the thing from her brain or whatever. He's dead now, thanks to Joel. And Ollie, it's interesting. Obviously, I remember you and I talking, and you saying that you were convinced that like the game was going to go down a path of like Ellie's immunity a bit more.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
So like, what did you think about that?
Well, they don't even really go into it. Like, also, she tries to tell Dina that she's immune, and then Dina like shuts her down, and then we go forward like 18 months, and she still doesn't know. Like, she's like, "Oh my god, your mask!" It's like, I thought you guys were like in love. You would have, or you should have already told her by now.
I think because Joe was so adamant about like not telling anyone. It does make the really cool moment. Was it is it Nora, the who she kills? Yeah, when like they go down to the place of all the spores, and then like she hasn't got like a mask on, and she thinks we're gonna die, and then that's how she realizes that it's her. And you almost feel like a bit like a superhero, like a horrible superhero in that moment, like because that's kind of one of the few times where it really kind of helps you out, seeing as everyone else has gas masks. Is cool. But yeah, sorry.
My main takeaway would be Joel made an impossible decision. No one can really say, they wouldn't do the same or they would do the same. Joel is not really a good person. Abby is not a good person, and Ellie is not a good person. So, like, this is more as a response to a lot of the questions that we got, but like, all of them are horrible. Like, none of them are justified or right in anything they did. They literally are existing outside of a morality system that you can't even comprehend because of the situation they're in.
So I think the difference between I want to go back to the controversy in a bit, but is from what stage are they on their journey? And I think for Joel, he had his horribleness, like he peaked kind of when you were saying, Sam, that like those 20 years that you don't see. I think that was probably his peak of horribleness, and then found Ellie, and then I think Ellie kind of taught him empathy, and again after his daughter, and then it was a selfless act if wrong to save her, and then since then he's been almost like trying to atone, and I think at the time when he dies he's probably as good a person as he's ever been. I think Abby does a similar thing. I think she peaks probably in her badness for killing Joel and like torturing it, but I think you can almost see it in her face afterwards. She kind of, I don't think she's in any way satisfied after killing him, and she realizes, my dad's still not back. This hasn't helped.
Yeah.
And then she's on her slope of going up, and she's, learning sympathy for the scars, with Lev, and then she's kind of working things out with kind of Owen and Mel. And I think she's peak. She lets Ellie live twice when she could have killed her. And then Ellie is just downward slope the whole game until the very, very end when there's like a little blip for where she lets Abby live. And I feel like that's where, they're both all horrible, but I think Sam and Abby almost are above because they were on the up until the events kind of changed everything.
Yeah. I'm sort of speaking from a place where I've read up on the controversy, and I can't believe that it's even a
okay. Well, let's get the controversy.
Yeah.
So I was reading that up today. Sorry.
Go on. No, you go.
I was just going to say, so this is what I could find out for like the reasons why it's a divisive game and why they bombed all the reviews and stuff and sent death threats to voice actors. All that mad stuff. So Abby killed Joel is just the obvious one. Character I like was killed by a character, so I don't like that character. Naughty Dog are pandering to justice warriors, and I think that's just from having a diverse cast of characters. It's like, okay, whatever. It's lazy and bad writing, which is almost laughable. But
I will fight anyone in the street who says that.
Yeah. So this is from real messages from actual people that I was looking for it loads. This is what I was doing for the podcast. Ellie lets Abby live at the end, which made the whole thing pointless, is what people said. And then the only one that I can sort of agree with a little bit that people were saying is that from when you switch to play as Abby, it's right like after kind of the beginning of the climax, like the first confrontation in the theater, and the story had been building and building and building and building. Then there's that moment, and then you're kind of whipped away from it. And at the moment, you don't care that much about Abby. You don't really know her, and it felt like the hype was building. And then it kind of all sinks back down and builds again. And I kind of I'm not saying it's wrong or bad, but I can kind of get how that might be almost a bit disappointing if you're expecting more of a climax. But then I'll go to your guys' view in a second. But ultimately, I think that for me, I think the real reason is that game, like, for one, they've spent loads of time with Joel and Ellie, so they've just become attached to them, is one big thing. And then also that they're used to stories where they just feel it's a happy ending, or at least feel satisfied, and this is a story that challenges you at the end rather than, presenting it all nicely. And I think that's probably why people don't like it. Sam, do you kind of have any different thoughts on why people reacted so horribly to Abby in particular, or just the story in general?
Well, I mean, I think, you touched on the majority of that there, but like, I think people for the most part, in fandoms, want the same thing over and over again, don't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and they wanted to be Joel and Ellie going on another adventure.
Yeah.
You know, and they didn't get that. And then, unfortunately, in today's society, like online and stuff, like people, like fans, and I'm doing this because I don't think if you send death threats to anyone involved in anything, you know, you can call yourself a fan. Like they kick off about it. It's like, you know, that Star Wars film, The Last Jedi. People lost their minds over it because it was a lot of quite similar stuff to that. Like there was like forced diversity and everything. I love that film. I think it's great because it subverts what you are expecting.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I love about this game. So like, yeah, I think people just wanted the same thing. And then also, you know, a lot of people have very horrible views on, you know, like diversity and LGBTQ+. So I always get that wrong. You know, like I remember there's a bit when they're in the bookshop in Seattle and there's like a trans pride flag or something on the wall, I think, or it's like painted like trans lives colours. And I remember seeing on Reddit or something, you know, great place to go.
Yeah.
Just people like just people just like losing their minds over it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, guys, it's a video game.
It's
Like
so
if you don't
stupid.
like it, if you don't like it, don't play it.
Just turn it off.
Like, and also, yeah, exactly, yeah. Go outside and shout at someone in the street. if you have to get it out, don't do that. But then also, like, you still get to play as Joel in the game. You still get to, well, not play as Joel, but, you know, like you still get to have interactions with Joel and everything. So it's not like he's done in the, you know, first couple of hours and then you never see him again. Like he's still there.
Yeah.
And yeah,
even
I
after
think
he's dead, he's still like a constant force in the story and in flashbacks.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I think the greatest strength of the game is that it completely wrong foots you and just, yeah, like, it's like, no, we're not doing the same thing again. You know, like we're mixing it up.
Also, the whole angle of like, oh, it was pointless because she let Abby live at the end. It's like, do you not realise that's the message of the whole game? Is that the revenge is pointless? Like every time someone's got revenge in this game, it has been pointless. Like, or they've not gone through with it, or it's been a waste of time.
She's ended that cycle. Like she's
like you literally continuously watch revenge not work for the whole game. And then at the end, obviously, it doesn't work.
Even in like
complaining about it.
For like the
but
wolves
I wanted my
versus
revenge
Scars,
at the end, though.
Is that's all that whole island like burning down in flames from like two people that like got in a fight, you know, and then they're both taking revenge on each other, and it's like that two whole communities just collapse through revenge, you know, and then at the side it's the Ellie and Abby kind of doing their thing.
Speaking of the storytelling side of things as well, the way that whole Scars WLF conflict is played out through notes that you find and everything like that, you know, just across the board, is so well done. Like it's incredible. Like because obviously when you're then playing as Abby, you're obviously seeing much more of the WLF and everything, and so also the Fedra and WLF conflict as well. Like it's all done when you're playing as Ellie through literally like, you know, discarded notes and stuff. Like and it builds such a rich world, and then so you're like absolutely terrified of these scars. You know, like when you're first walking towards the TV station and there's the big mural of the woman, you know, and it's feel her love or something like that, and it's just like, oh my god, I hate this.
Yeah. It was like they had to think of something that was worse than what you've been up against. I feel like they had to keep doing that towards the end. As you get further in, they're like, what could be worse than this? And then we had to think of something, and we're like, so the last guys you come up against are just the absolute worst. Somehow they're worse than the cult. Like, they're just like regular people almost.
Before we fully go off the controversy list, Ollie, you're a bit of a recent master of doing tier lists, because we've done a whole bunch of tier lists that you've done ideas for. So this is a genuine character tier list, because we spoke about doing
it to me?
A tier list of characters. Yes, I'm putting it in the Discord now, and this is real. I just wanted to know if Sam as well, you can weigh in what you think. I've just put it in the Discord chat of how would you agree or disagree or notice any patterns with this tier list of the Last of Us characters.
Well, I mean, all of the main characters from 1 are at the top and all the characters from 2 are at the bottom.
No, but that wasn't like, that put up as a genuine, here's my tier list of the characters.
It's so stupid, isn't it? The thing is as well, it's like, oh, they shouldn't have killed Joel, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you know, that's part of the story. Like, that's part of the thing you like. Like, I just don't understand.
That's and then the way it's like the group that killed Joel are all at E, and then but then Mel is slightly up on D. Like it's so
because she was pregnant. Much. She was pregnant, so she was she was an innocent in that.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean I can't believe that Sarah's that high on the list. She barely says anything, you know.
Yeah. Oh man, it's crazy. I mean, they put Ellie and Dina's baby right down on her. Down at C. What did the baby do? The baby didn't kill Joel.
I mean, I don't want to get into the reasons that the C list is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just made because we spoke briefly.
Sorry, I should be keeping this light, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Because we spoke briefly about the controversy in the last time, and it just made me laugh because if you might remember now, Ollie, you kind of said like, "Oh, is the controversy because of like that it was two girls kissing?" And we were sort of like, "Oh God, you know what? That would be just such a simpler thing because it's such like it's kind of a more interesting but deeper weird reason." But the fact that it was so divided, and I think it is part of like the people that are angry and noisier, and there's probably loads of people like us that just played the game and that was it, you know, chatted about it with their mates but didn't go to any message boards talking about it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like a lot of the questions that we got, which I'm just quickly going to whip through now, which like obviously I'm not saying our community is hateful or anything, but so many of them were about the negativity. I didn't realize how much it rocked, you know, what had happened. You know, what happened with the game. So we got Ninja Patrick says... Oh, wait, no, sorry, not Ninja Patrick. We'll come back to you in a minute, Ninja Patrick. Hang on. Peter Jackman says, do you think negativity around the game on release has affected its legacy for good? Obviously, I just finished it. And I was like, what? Like, what happened? Nav Kiran Gotra says, did you have to convince yourself that the game isn't as bad or good as the public made it out to be? And I was like, because obviously I'd not read any reviews or anything. I hadn't seen anything. So I was just like, what on earth is this about? Krishan G says, do you think it would have been more beneficial if there wasn't a Last of Us 2, considering how it was received by audiences? It's like, what? It's just part of the story. The guy dies. Like, it's not like, it's so crazy when you're removed from it.
People saying like, you know, how it's perceived by audiences. It was like, it's like one of the most highly awarded games of all time. Like, and people for the most part love it.
It was the game of the year.
Like, yeah. Like,
and also it sold 10 million copies. So it's done. Yeah,
it's
done
only on PlayStation as well. Like not like that was before PC or anything. Like the PlayStation only 10 million copies, which is crazy.
You can always skew the argument to your own viewpoint, right? Which is probably what I'm doing with saying it's the greatest thing ever made. But you know, I'm aware that people don't like it, and that's fine.
The controversy reasons they're silly things, like the fact that a character they like died. Like the reason that he died is because you like him. Like, that's part of the story. They wouldn't have made him so likable and then killed him off if that wasn't what the intention was. They're not robbing you of anything. They're giving you an entire game. Like, I think
it's fair enough that someone wouldn't enjoy it because, you know, there's some people that don't want, you know, stories like this. And, you know, it's sad when a character that you like's died. But, like, I feel like you got to draw the line at, like, don't say it's bad storytelling or like they knew what they were doing. They knew the emotions that they were going to make the audience feel. You just don't want to feel those emotions in your media. Basically, that's what it comes down to. And that's where you kind of got to draw the line between like critiquing or just saying like, hey, you know what? This ain't for me. I'm going to go back to Mario Kart. Like that's the games I want to play. I don't want to challenge myself, you know, with these kind of stories.
That is something that I can kind of relate to as well, because I was texting my girlfriend while I was playing this, and she was like, is it entertaining? And I was like, I don't actually know if it is. Like, because I was around the point where Ellie's hunting you with a shotgun, and I was like, she was like, oh, what are you doing? And I was like, okay, so I'm going to corner this like 16-year-old girl, hit her over the head with a bottle, and hopefully stab her to death. And I was like, this is like actually a bit too nasty, and I don't know if I'm actually having fun. And like, if this is what I'm doing with my free time, is this what I want to be doing? Like, I feel like the comparisons between this and the first one, for me, I actually prefer the first one, but I feel like that's because this one revels in the nastiness a little bit too much, and because the graphics are better, it's a bit like, it, you know, am I enjoying it? I don't think I am. Like, it's actually quite horrible, you know. And I want to watch these people, you know, smack the hell out of each other and cut each other's limbs off? I don't know if I do. So
I think that's interesting. So that you would say like, yeah, like, because it is obviously nasty and it is obviously very like visceral and everything, but like, I think it's doing that to put you through. It's putting you through the ringer, isn't it? And like, I personally don't feel like it's reveling in it. I think the violence is horrible. Like the fact you have to like kill dogs, and like obviously you can like have fun with like dispatching people, like whatever. But like I think when you're the first playthrough, like when you don't know what's coming next, right? Like when you don't know the hillside section as Ellie, when you don't know how many more houses you've got to go through, like that bit where you're just like running around and everything, you don't know what's around the next corner. Like that's so intense and so horrible that like you literally run into someone and it's just like, well, I'm just gonna have to like shank you because like if not, you're gonna kill me, and it's kill or be killed, right? And I just think that's what it does so well, is that it like puts you into that space and like it's suffocating, and all you can do to get out is kill people, and it's based on your decision to go and like right the wrong that you've had done to you.
There was one point where I started to think like, okay, maybe it is going a bit too far, which it doesn't sound that bad when I describe it, but basically there's a part where Abby gets captured by these crew called the Rattlers, and they like throw her on the floor and beat her up, like standard fare. That's what happens in this game. But then the little boy Lev, I was like, okay, they're going to grab him and tie him up or something. But like the biggest guy there punches him like square in the face. He falls backwards, smashes his head on the garage door, and then is laying in a pool of blood. And I remember thinking like, he could have just put his hand over his mouth, and then like I wouldn't have had to watch that. And as I started to think of it like that, I was like, oh my God, this is actually horrible. Like, is it, I get it. Don't get me wrong. It's amazing. The story is amazing. Everything is amazing. But in terms of having fun, I think I had more fun in the first one. It was a bit less. Like, there's that scene with the guy with the sickle, and then like, I'm not going to describe it because it's so gross, but I remember thinking like, this is a lot.
Oh God.
Like, is this really necessary? Yeah. Like, you can tell the same story without doing that. Or having a little boy getting punched square in the face.
The goal of those moments isn't fun. Like it's like there's I can enjoy things without them being fun. Like in this, like there's the bit with with Nora again, where where I was saying with the spores, and you have to keep. I think you're pressing whatever to attack to kill her, and it's her off screen, but it's like Ellie like attacking her and then getting splattered with blood, and like you can't not do it. And the fact that it makes you do it and is so horrible, like you're. It's putting you as close to the brutality as possible, and then also with Mel as well, Mel and Owen, when like you kill her and then you realize she turns over and you realize that she's pregnant, and like Ellie's reaction, and it's sort of like it's doing the brutality, and it's showing you like what Ellie's limit is at that moment, where like Ellie's fine killing the dog and two people that she doesn't really know anything about. But then, but they're pregnant. Oh, that's my line. I wouldn't have done it if I knew she was pregnant. But then, like that line just keeps changing throughout, and I feel like they need that gradual slope of brutality where you can see from like even early on in this game, after everything from the first game, where she's still got kind of her bubbly, jokey personality, and like we're not like this. Dina has a line like where like you do something, and then like Dina's like like we're just doing what they did to us, and she's like, oh, like they're not like us. And it's like, what? Like, in what way are they not like you? And I think that the brutality serves the story in that way.
Yeah. Maybe also the fact that I played The Last of Us 1 10 years after it came out, that it was a bit more like, obviously it's not light by any means, but it felt a lot lighter than this. Yeah. And I feel like The Last of Us 1, I would say, oh yeah, like, if you like action games, you should play Last of Us 1. It's got a couple of nasty bits, but it's not that bad. Whereas Last of Us 2, I would be like, if you've got any kind of nervous disposition, like, do not go near this, because it is another level of like madness. And even the situations you're in are so intense as well. Like, when you're riding your horse through that camp and it's on fire, I remember thinking, like, I am almost shaking. I'm just sitting on my bed, and I was like, is this fun? Like, am I putting myself through this? Like, I mean, it is amazing.
That's what it does so well. Like, like that stretch on the Seraphite Island is like unbelievable. Like, like when you're, like hooning it along on your horse, everything's just like collapsing down, like around you and everything. Like, like it goes back to that. Like, it's just so cinematic, and it's so like engrossing and like genuinely like just so exciting. I think one of the other things that's really great about the game is, and I can't remember if this is very prevalent in part 1, but just like the use of music throughout as well, like combat, like not just the cutscenes. Like when you're like being hunted by like the Seraphites or no Seraphites, like the WLF or something, you get like that sort of like the sort of more like techno's the wrong word, but like the more sort of like very much the wrong word. There's no techno in the game.
No, but it's like a more of a modern kind of sounding music, right?
Exactly.
And then the Seraphites have more of like a traditional style.
Yeah.
And then and it's just like that is just like you're literally playing a film.
Yeah.
Like it's so good.
Yeah.
Like it's just
and it's
like,
not even
it
like
continues looping.
because I feel like that's always a thing with video games, especially more back in the day. Like I feel like late PS2, early like 360, PS3 era, it was always like it's cinematic. It's like being in a film, and that was like being even considered next to a film was a win. Whereas this doesn't feel like that. It feels like, oh, this is compared to like a masterpiece film. It's not like, oh, we're getting to like film storytelling, because like Minions is a film. Like that doesn't mean anything. Yeah. Like this is like an amazing, like Oscar conversation worthy film, but over the length of a video game, and you're involved in it as well, which I think what makes it so special. We've sung a load of praises. Obviously, Sam, you say this is probably your favorite game. Like, do you have any like straight up issues or things that you kind of wish were different with the game?
I mean, I genuinely don't think I do. I mean, I wish it was longer. That's what I said. That's what I said to Ollie after we finished it. No, like no, just like the only issue I have with it is that I can't play it for the first time again because. There is that again when you're going into Seattle the first time.
It's a big ask for those developers, Sam. I don't know what you're expecting.
I know. I need them to eternal sunshine me. Like when you're going in and like Ellie just says like like watch the windows. Like when you're heading towards the Saravina Hotel and everything, like you don't know what's going to happen, right? And obviously that's the same with any video game. So I'm not just saying this about this, but like I wish that I could like take it out of my brain and play it again for the first time.
Absolutely.
Because, like
more than most games. Like I absolutely agree with that, and that was why it was weird doing the second playthrough because I played through the first time with my partner, and so we were like talking. So we'd play for big sessions, and then we'd like chat for like hours about. Why are they doing this? What do you think is going to happen? Like, who's this? Like, we're trying to like solve it and like piece it together. And like, obviously, that's like I lost that in this playthrough. It's obviously no fault of the game, but I 100% know what you're talking about there.
Well, I just finally on that thing about it being pretty grim. I just don't know if that's what I want out of a game is to feel like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so I find that so interesting because like
but I play games like Tetris,
life affirming.
I play like Tetris and Street Fighter,
Mario Kart.
Like I play like gameplay games. So playing like narrative heavy games is not something I do that often. And when it's like, okay, I'm starting to like genuinely feel like I'm having some sort of heart palpitation. And I'm like, is this what I want, or do I just want to like munch dots in Pac-Man? And it's just a lot easier to swallow. No pun intended.
You've on several occasions, Ollie, said that like all video game stories are bad or something.
Yeah, because I play games. Yeah, now I'm starting to see that maybe they're not.
Yeah, is this kind of bringing you round?
Yeah, because I always was in the mindset of like, if you took the player out of the game and you were just watching it, it wouldn't be very good. Of pretty much most games, but like these two Last of Us games are on another level. That like
I think even Uncharted, which has a better than average gameplay story.
Yeah.
It's the story. I mean, Uncharted 4 is probably the best, but like without the gameplay, they're not good stories. They're great. There's great acting, great performances. And there is good writing. There's good like dialogue, but it's not a great story by any means. It's the way it's to serve the gameplay.
Before Last of Us 2, Uncharted 4 was like I would say the most complete game I'd ever played. I was like the same level where I was like, I can't believe people have actually sat down and made this, and it's come like I can't believe it exists. It's that amazing, and the story of that is I can't even remember it. So like, but yeah, so like I don't play narrative games that much. So it's just been a lot. But in terms of negatives, obviously I said it's quite nasty, but I mean I still think it's amazing. But I do think maybe it's a bit too long.
Yeah,
you could do with maybe one less flashback. Running around as a child.
Give me more. Give me double the length. Give me 6 days in Seattle from both of them.
I feel like, I was trying to think about it. Like, when you watch TV and like the pacing is kind of dictated by the fact that it's only on once a week. Whereas like a game, you can just smash it. So like they try to artificially pace it by making you like run around as Abby as a child or as Ellie as a child. It's a bit like,
I don't think that's odd. No, I think there was always a message or a point, like those flashbacks, like the museum scene. Like, that's not padding. That is like a reinforcement of why Ellie is doing what she's doing to avenge Joel.
Do you think it was too long?
No, because I love those more like being Ellie and Joel again and having like fun dialogue between them and like oh, what'd you get me for a birthday? A dinosaur? And then it is a dinosaur. And then like him pushing you in the water, and it's that you hadn't swam at that point. And in the first game, our big point is that you can't swim. Oh, but now you can swim, and he's taught you to swim. But then you push him, and like that like gameplay merged with story, merged to like a throwback to the last game. Like, you just don't get that in other games. Like that quality storytelling that you're involved in, like it's sort of like I just like Sam said, like as much as they could give me of that, like I will eat up.
Maybe if I played it again without trying to rush to the end within 2 weeks. Maybe if I think that's what it is.
Well, yeah.
With you both going like, you've got 10 hours left, like. I mean, just thinking like, this is the longest game ever made. Why would it finish?
Well, I just think like it's got so much like depth to it and so much like variety as well. In that, like even in like the main like narratives as well. Like Ellie's game, I think I would consider to be more of like a sort of like stealth thriller, and then Abby's I think goes into like more like full on horror. Like because like some of the like so the first when Abby first meets Yara and Lev, and you know you fight off all the stalkers, and then you end up in like, is it like an abandoned restaurant or something, and you've got like bloaters, clickers, runners, like all of them just like coming. There's like not 30, but it was like 15 of them or something. That's so full on and so horrible. And then like the descent, you know, going down the hotel and everything with Abby.
That's great. That's so good.
Yeah.
That is and then coming out the walls, like That's one of the best things about a playthrough, a replay, is knowing where they're going to come from, and just putting a bullet in them. I still kept whacking them anyway, just in case, because I was so scared they're going to jump out behind me. And they really, like, same with Playing Expectations. There's 3 huge gameplay moments where they really get you. One, I can't believe we haven't spoken about it yet, is when you're doing the workbench, when you're upgrading your tools, which we could do a whole podcast just about how good that is. But then you're attacked while doing it when you're in the menus. And then there's another... Did you not?
Oh, it's in it's in Seattle day 2, I think, isn't it?
Oh, maybe you didn't use the workbench.
I went a really long time without finding a workbench, and then when I found one, I had like 500 screws. Oh, okay.
So you're upgrading your weapons. You're in all the menus and doing it, and then they grabbed and you're attacked while doing it, which is like amazing. And then
did you know that you can sorry, next time you play it, put a trap mine outside the door of the room they come out of, and then when you're at the workbench, they explode behind you.
Of course nice. That works. But then the other times there's a time, you know, after every fight they're like, I think that was the last of them or something like that, and then they do that and they go like, okay, that was all of them, and then you go, and then you suddenly attacked again, and then like you kill it, and then you're like, oh, that was the last of them. And then the other one, which is the worst one, is when you're doing one of the puzzles pushing a cart, you're in the arcade, and then you fall through the floor. And it's like a big bloater thing, and like, oh man, it's like they just constantly want to like just surprise you and like play around. You actually maybe
and something else they
go ahead. No, please, sir.
Well, so something else that they do, which they haven't done in the previous game or up until then, is you fight a boss, right? The Rat King.
Yeah, let's talk about the Rat King. Did you all enjoy that?
No.
Enjoy.
I didn't mind the fight. It was a good fight. The design was good, but I was expecting something more gross from the lead up to it. Have you not played a Resident Evil game before?
We've had this conversation. I had to stop playing Resident Evil 2, the remake, because that Mr. X fella kept following me and I didn't like it.
I know, but the monsters in Resident Evil are like,
please leave,
crazy.
Sir. Please leave.
It stresses me out too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the Rat King, like I knew that there was something coming. And I think again, I've seen on like Reddit or something. I've seen someone post like a screenshot of like them, you know, when you're about to walk into the ambulance, and they're like, they said like, pray for me or something. So I was like, oh Jesus, what's this going to be? And then like the actual fight itself wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Because obviously you run away from it first, don't you? And then you hack it with an axe or something, and then you go down, and then you sort of like Henry Cavill in Mission Impossible Fallout, you like cock your arms ready to fight it, and then it's not actually super hard to kill, but it is just still like so upsetting and so horrible, and also the build up to it, because you're going through like the way it's like built is just like so amazing. And obviously you've got like all the the clickers and everything, and you see the big wall.
That's what I was going to mention. Yeah.
It's...
So I was like, this is going to be something otherworldly. Like, I cannot imagine what this horrible thing is. I was like, it's going to be a snake or like a giant snake or something, like something I can't imagine. And then it turning out to be like 5 people stuck together. I was a bit like, oh, okay, well, like,
what a sentence.
I know, but like when you play these, like when you play enough of these kind of horror games, like you never know what you're going to see. Like, what was I saying? Oh yeah, when you play enough horror games, you see some stuff you couldn't even imagine. And I can imagine 5 people stuck together. But like,
fair enough.
So like Resident Evil, one of the bosses is a guy who injects himself and he turns into a T-Rex. Like, but
like,
he turns
this is a
inside out.
grounded game compared to Resident. I mean, like that would take me out of it.
No,
like,
I know, but like something other than 5 people stuck. Like, it could have been like the building itself had like so many people in it, it started to attack you or something.
What if it had been 6 people stuck together?
I would have lost my mind. I would have turned off and said, I'm not playing this disgusting game anymore.
Oh man, I actually got one of my like. So I try to think. Normally, when I write up my notes, I kind of have like I put it into categories, and normally I have like a little section for like just issues or like nitpicks I found with the game. And I struggled here, so I came up with 3. Was all I could do. One is I wish there was another hub area. We kind of mentioned that earlier. And I feel like they don't set up that there's going to be the fact that there's one so early on. You know, you assume there's going to be a few more. I'm going to be interested to see what you guys think about this. I didn't like the showdown, like the gameplay with Abby versus Ellie in the theater. I like gameplay wise, I didn't enjoy that. Ollie, did you enjoy that? Like,
I think it's set up quite cool, but like the fact that when you lose, there's so many hints. They know that it's really hard and like. It kind of doesn't really work. Like, you know, on paper it sounds amazing, but in reality it's just a bit. I don't know. Doesn't really work as well as you.
What about you, Sam? Did you fail on it, or because I feel like if you did that first go, it could be cool. What about you?
Oh no, I failed. Yeah, because Ellie's like so like wily and you know like just like she's so formidable.
Yeah.
In that section, so it took me quite a while. Also, it just felt weird hunting Ellie. You know,
like, see, but I didn't mind that because of like I found that interesting, and I've been, you know, we wouldn't have found it weird being Ellie fighting Abby, but I've spent so long with Abby, like I didn't mind that. But yeah, I think I failed a lot, and I was looking forward to because I couldn't quite remember what happened at the end of the fight. I knew neither of them died, but I couldn't remember how it ended. So I was looking forward to that, but then I kept failing. I was just like, I just want to get past this to carry them the story. And then it also breaks some of their own rules. Like normally, as I said, I'd always have a bottle and I'd throw it to stun them and attack them. But Abby is somehow, compared to everyone else, doesn't get stunned by that. And that's the only, but you know, even the giant guys later on get stunned if you throw something at them. So that kind of annoyed me that they broke their gameplay rules in that section.
Actually, I thought it was like a really creepy section. Like, so I think like again, like just people sneaking, I just can't handle. And when you just see Ellie just like like darting around behind a corner or something, it's just like, she's becoming a stalker.
It was tense the first time, and then I failed like I probably failed. I don't know, maybe about 7 times in that section. Like I failed a lot. So I think by the end of it, like all tension and drama was gone. And I was like, I just want to get through it. And that was the only like gameplay moment where I felt that.
I had the same as you on that, but with the bit we walking on top of the crane. So like I just kept falling off the crane either side. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, am I not? I was looking at the controller like, am I not pushing forward? Am I pushing forward right? And I had to like put the camera like directly above her and use like the base of a ponytail as like a balancing point.
Ollie, you have to fall off. That's a cutscene. Did you just keep?
No. Falling off earlier than that.
I'll be honest. This isn't a brag. I didn't know you could fall off.
You can. And she just goes like, "What?" And it just ends before she hits the floor.
Because otherwise it'd be like a minute long just drop because she's so fucking high up.
That actually brings me into my third issue. Is there was some of the because so much of the game is so grounded. The moments when like one of my examples is when Abby falls off and they happen to land in a swimming pool, or when a character happens to show up at just the right time to save you, or you're getting to a spooky bit. I know my flashlight's broken now, but after the spooky bit, my flashlight works now. Like those moments are so like video gamey, and in most video games you don't mind, and I don't even think they're like necessarily wrong here, but because the rest of the game is so kind of brutal and just real, those moments stand out more as like, okay, like they couldn't creatively solve it. They're just doing like standard, like not lazy storytelling, but like basic storytelling or guiding gameplay. Like those moments stand out more because everything else is so subtle, I guess.
Well, I mean, like the fact that obviously when they're looking for Joel and Tommy, Abby and her crew at the beginning, the people who rescue her just so happen to be Joel and Tommy, right? Like it's that coincidence thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like sometimes you got to go with it, don't you? But then, other times like I think on my third play, I think that was the first time I was just sort of like, that's a massive coincidence that she happened to be there at that time and they were there and they were on their own.
I was also expecting to really hate the Sky Bridge. I don't know why in my head I thought it was going to look like Avatar. Like it was going to be all like above the clouds, like whimsical, like all of these trees and stuff. And then I got up there, I was like, oh no, of course it's just a crane. Like the kid doesn't know what a crane is. So, but I was really expecting. That's why I texted you like, oh, I'm on the way to the Sky Bridge. I was thinking like, oh, it's gonna be so stupid, and it was absolutely fine.
I do love the way it's like the modern stuff, and then they've built all of like their wooden like ladders and like kind of the old style kind of like workman like structures like built into the modern stuff is pretty cool in that area.
I love the whole like Seraphite like just story and that whole thing is just like it's so like just interesting, fascinating. Like which of the two narratives of Ellie or Abby did you guys prefer?
I think I prefer Abby because as I said in the Enslaved podcast, I don't think revenge is like much, it doesn't really motivate me. So like the fact that she had some other stuff going on was a bit more. And
I guess even though they're both driven by revenge, you don't play much of Abby's side of it.
It's kind of already done by the time you get to her. So and then towards the end, obviously it comes back, but it's not as much. Like
I did feel that there was like I kind of mentioned earlier, the way that it's building up hype, and then like as much as I enjoyed going back to Abby, like it did feel like a step down in terms of like the intensity when you're going through her, and like there's some of the moments when it's like, oh yeah, we're going off to do a mission with the wolves, and I'd like I just don't have no like I at that moment I don't have any motivation really for why like I'm just like I get it, they're showing a slice of life from Abby and then introducing characters and stuff, but it's weird not having like anything else that I'm also in a grander scheme going for in those scenes. But I can't really separate them that distinctly. I just see the whole game as a one, so it's kind of
also
hard to split them up.
On the Seraphite thing. I'm glad that they like because he says, "Oh, that's old technology. Like we don't use that. It's cursed." Or I don't know why they didn't use it. But then he does say like, "Oh, there are some exceptions though," and I was like, "Okay, because as soon as he said, "Oh, we don't use old technology," I was like, "Your leader uses a gun." Yeah. And then he does say it like 5 minutes later. I was like, okay, they did actually bother to say, oh, we do make exceptions.
Yeah, well, it's a cool ridiculous. like kind of discussion on like organized religion where they kind of say about like, oh, why would you follow the readings of this person when like look at all of the violence your people do, and they're like have you read the text? And she's like, no, and it's like, that's not what the message is. This is people like the actual text is fine, it's just people taking it in a wrong way and taking different meanings from it, and that's the problem here. That was a really cool moment. Out of the I go to you first, Ollie. Out of like the new cast, was there any like standouts that you especially liked them? Like not even like as in they're a nice character, but like you thought they were a good, well-developed character that kind of stood out?
I liked Yara and I liked Abby.
Okay.
I'd say they're probably my two of the new cast. I don't feel like Tommy came off very well in this game. I used to quite like him, and then by the end of this one, I was like, "This guy." Do
you think you didn't like the character, or
yeah, Tommy? I didn't like. By the end of it, I'd really soured on him, and when he turned up at the end, I was like, "Oh, for God's sake! Like, you're the reason this is all happening, kind of. So just leave us alone. let Dina and Ellie be happy. Like, he's not."
How angry were you when Ellie goes off and leaves Dina in their like perfect life?
Behind? I know. To be honest, the first time I was walking around that house,
you stupid girl, you go back to your
I was waiting for, isn't it like Ellie gets battered by Abby and then she says, oh, Dina's pregnant, don't hurt her, and then doesn't she wake up at like the game wakes up at the farm, isn't that
so that was the end of the theatre scene.
I was waiting for Ellie to like go and wake up back in the theatre, because I was like, there's no way this can be real, like it's too nice.
It's so fancifully, isn't it? What about you, Sam? Was there any standout characters for you?
I mean, like, to be honest with you, like quite a lot of them. Yeah, like Abby, I think is like really, really well drawn. and everything like that. And obviously she starts as the villain, but then obviously, you know, you just knowing her and seeing her relationship with Lev develop is just like super sweet. And yeah, like she's just a person who is on the wrong track, you know. I thought Jesse was really cool. I was very upset when he took a bullet.
Oh yeah, gosh,
with zero fanfare, just like they're chatting,
exactly,
talking, but
and who else? I'm just looking at the tier list. I mean, obviously the rest of the Abby's crew don't really get fleshed out that much. Like Owen's, you know, sort of fine, but yeah, nothing.
I really liked Owen. Like I get how some people might find him a bit too golden retriever and a bit too like naive, but like I think maybe I just enjoyed spending time with him, and he was so you know, without it being overbearing, like he was very understanding, and like he was the one, you know, trying to keep Abby in check. And I feel like he was almost needed for like when Abby was at her worst, when she was in her deepest revenge, and like someone to be like, who are you? Like you're not, like you see what they were like together, and like how Abby's just become someone completely different, but he doesn't. Like he's the other road Abby could have gone down, but she just couldn't. So I liked him. I feel like we did almost, I don't know if we just didn't see enough of Abby's dad, or whether like the one time you see him, he's like saving a zebra, and it was like almost a bit like too much. I don't know. Did you agree with that?
Yeah, he was like proper American TV show dad, like, oh, like he was just like this goofy dude, and then it turned out he was the one that could save humanity. But I didn't hate him.
Exactly.
I didn't hate him.
It's not enough that he's the only person who could save humanity. It's he has to also save a zebra for us to love him.
Yeah, and just be like obviously like the best dad. Like I think the scene when he's like sort of having what was the firefly leader called from the first game when they're having that discussion. What was her name?
Hang on, she's on the list, isn't she?
Oh, is she? Oh yeah, she must be. I'm not on the list up anymore.
Marlene?
Marlene,
yeah. So when he's having the discussion with Marlene, like that's like it was all very well acted, and that scene is a bit more interesting. But I feel like because you know the difficulty is you know people are almost pitting Ellie and Abby against each other, and you're comparing like the revenge for Joel, you know, a character that you've spent you know at least 15 hours with, compared to, you know, to Abby's dad, who, you know, I don't remember his name. I mean, I'm sure it's just on the tier list, I can find it out. But like, and then like you have that one kind of scene with him. It's kind of, I feel like that's why people struggled so much to like Abby, was when like that was her revenge story for someone that you don't know much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a dad though, right? Like.
Oh no, yeah.
Like,
I mean, obviously to her, it's the world, and it's not even like a critique. But I just feel like I wish we either spent more time with him, or the time we spent with him. Like I don't really know what he is in terms of a character, other than like stereotypical dad. you know, like quite attractive middle-aged guy who's very caring, and like you don't see a single fault, you know, with him really.
Yeah. Jerry is his name as well.
Jerry.
So much of the controversy would just be gone if people would realise you don't have to like every character to enjoy something.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like you're not meant to like Ellie in this game. She's horrible. I like Ellie as a character, but I do not approve of what she got up to in this game.
And actually, Dina's great as well. I think,
Dina's great. Dina's a great character.
Like the rapport between the two of them is also really nice. Like, you know, just when they're on that initial trek into Seattle, you know, like just like their conversations and stuff, and then just as they're going around the open world area and stuff, like it's just like,
that guy's cool that guy's weed farm. It's like, mate, people are actually dying, and like you've staken so many lights and like irrigation systems, and like people are actually dying. Like you need to give this stuff back. Okay.
Hey man, there's no point living. You know, if you're not going to live.
Yeah.
And that's what Eugene was trying to say.
He was thriving, not surviving, and he looks exactly like Jason Momoa. So last time when we did this with Alice, we asked her if you were Joel, would you have left Ellie, or would you have taken her at the end of the first one?
Oh, I would have died long before we made it to the hospital.
You would have seen a clicker and just hid under a bush the whole time.
Like you're on your own, kid. No, I would have died when I was carrying Sarah in the opening.
Your knees would have just given up. Okay, let's rephrase it. Let's say while playing the video game Last of Us, it gave you a choice at the end.
Yeah.
Press circle or X for do you save her or not?
I think I'd save her. I think you have to. Like, after going through all that with her, like, I can't imagine leaving her to die, basically. Yeah. What about you guys? Like, I'm sure you answered it. Well, I have seen the last one, but I don't remember.
I just ask her. I just say...
But she's unconscious,
yeah, but just
right?
wake her up and say, you can put her under again.
Well, all right, okay. Sorry, I didn't realise that there was more nuance to it.
Yeah, but I just thought that...
there was a button to wake her up.
No, but like,
secret
not
option
Joe's
C,
example,
Ollie's going for.
I would have just asked her and said, like, this is going to kill you. Do you still want to do it? And if she said, yeah, I'd be like, well, she said, yeah, so here we go. And if she said no, I'd be like, well, looks like everyone's going down now, and then shot my way out.
I mean, that is a real suck of momentum and climax from the video game. Yeah, but I mean, obviously, if that's an option, then do that.
Yeah. Okay, one other thing. I said we get back to Ninja Patrick, and I'm going to now. Ninja Patrick on YouTube says, I feel the vast majority of reactions to this game have been heavily centered around the story or specific plot points rather than other aspects, which I feel is a shame, as I think there is so much more to appreciate with the rest. My big question to you is, what did you think of the guitar mechanic?
I loved playing Take On Me. I thought it was very powerful.
Oh my god, I forgot about that!
And as someone who actually can't play guitar in real life, I personally appreciated it.
Yeah. I quite liked the cheekiness of it, as like at the end when you're playing it and obviously you can't play anymore. It was like saying, well, you've lost a little bit of yourself through all this. I hope you're happy.
Well, it was her connection to Joel, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's like,
the thing
you've lost. Yeah, but like almost like you've lost a bit of yourself.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Because you put yourself and everyone else through this.
Yeah, that guitar. So the guitar's the opening shot is like him lovingly cleaning it and preparing it for her. And then obviously it's the final shot where she's like leaving it behind. But then like the whole way through, like obviously there's like the song that she's playing and that connection in that way. Like when you go to the theater and you're like, you can see that, like, you can see the way her mind's jumped. She goes like, oh, like Joe would have loved watching a film here. Then she picks up the guitar and plays his song. She's like, oh, the theater made her think of Joel, and then she wants to play his song. Like, and then like there's like obviously like the moth on it. And you notice as she becomes more and more obsessed with kind of revenge and, getting revenge from him, she starts drawing loads of moths in her journal. Like, which is like almost like becomes like his symbol throughout.
Oh, wow. Well, she's got a massive moth tattoo on her arm as well.
Yeah.
And the loading screen is moths. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so I kind of associated that, with him as well. But yeah, in terms of just mechanically, of course they make it fully playable with like all the chords, and you can use the touch of the touch, whatever it is on the touch controller to do just a few strings, or you can strum up or strum down. And the YouTube's full of people playing like full songs, with their DualShocks, which is incredible. Yeah, like I mean, like the amount of detail, like you could probably run a successful YouTube channel for years pointing out tiny details of this game and never run out of content. Like the safes, do you know you can open them from just audio? You don't have to solve the puzzles.
Yeah,
you can hear
I didn't know that.
Like, and I did, and it's not even a guilt. Like I for one, I was like, I can't be able to look around. I'm just going to listen, and you can hear like different clicks, like. Near the beginning, Abby, like she falls and she hurts her shoulder. Then the whole game, she's like kind of like rubbing and like moving the same shoulder throughout like the time.
She does the same when she says she slept funny.
Yeah.
And then for like the whole day afterwards, she's like scratching her neck. And, it's just,
and then like things
crazy.
like you can see this stuff that was in Joel's house, like the wind chimes that was outside Joel's house. They she ends up putting to like their house at the farm. And then as you go past it, she like touches it and you're like, oh, is that her like thinking of him? Like like it's honestly like I can't imagine like even like a big team of people sitting down and making it all fit together. Like it feels like it all grew from like one small ball and like the whole story just spread out at one. I can't imagine something having one idea and then them linking it all together because it feels like such a perfect entity, this game. I really liked it.
Shall we list it?
Yeah, let's unless there's well, I guess we can keep talking about it as we put it on the list, I guess. So let's do it. Okay, so Like, I think I can just like a spoiler alert. Like, it's going to be a top 5 game. So let's just focus in. Forget anything out on the list. Ollie, do you want to just read through the top 5 games as they stand right now?
Okay, so as they stand, number 1 we have Disco Elysium. 2 is Prey. 3 is The Last of Us Part 1. 4 is Doom, and 5 is Undertale.
Okay,
and I feel like there's one game in that top 5 that.
We get there, Ollie. Okay. We get to it, Ollie.
I'm like, let me at it.
we'll get at it. So, Sam. So first, number 1. So this is your favorite game of all time, right?
100%.
Okay, so this is a number 1. You want this to go on number 1 on our list?
Yeah, because you haven't got the Tony Hawk remaster on here yet. So,
okay.
Choice word there.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And then Ollie. So this is the big one. Is so where would it be number 1 for you? Does it beat Disco Elysium?
No, I would put it behind the first one.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I prefer the first one.
I'm shocked. So you want it under the first one, and under Prey is where you'll put it on the list.
No, we're going to get to Prey, but I would in my head it's Disco Elysium, The Last of Us Part 2, Doom, Undertale, and Prey is I don't even know where Prey is.
Okay. But I mean, like, it's our joint list, and I fought to get Prey there at one point with a stake in Prey, which I agreed to take away. So
yeah.
Okay, so Sam, you played a bit of Prey as well. I know that you ended up bouncing off it, but we had a chat about Prey on the beach when I was down in Brighton last, and I feel like in that conversation you gained more of an appreciation for Prey than you did playing it, like hearing about some of the stuff that you can do in it. Yeah,
but nice try. I still like it. To me, when I played it, and I think I played about 3 or 4 hours of it, it didn't do it for me, like, and it should do it for me because it's like a sci-fi horror, shoot 'em up. But I just found it I just didn't find that it flowed well enough for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, I found the amount of upgrade options just ridiculous. Like it was like overwhelming. Like I didn't know where to start. So yeah, like for me, it's. I mean, I've obviously played very, very few of these games on this list anyway. But
is there anything else on there that you've played that you want to shed some light on?
I've tried playing Harry Potter when I was much younger. Is that the first one?
No, it's the second one.
Second
on PlayStation 2.
Yes, I think. Actually, was it that or? There was a game that resulted in me breaking my PlayStation 2 because I punched it in frustration, and I can't remember if it was Harry Potter or Grand Theft Auto.
I thought you played Max Payne 3.
No.
Oh, I thought you had. Talked about the other day.
No.
Right, no,
I've watched the South Park episode of World of Warcraft, but that's as much as my interaction with that goes. So yeah, no, it's literally Last of Us Part 2. So yeah.
Well, the good thing is you've played like 3 of the top 5, so you can still be absolutely in the conversation. So okay, I'm going to make this easier for you for Prey, Ollie. So so the reason I love Prey so much is immersive sims are one of my favorite genres. It's one of the best ones, and it's a setting and a style that I love. Like it's when they say, oh, this game was basically made for me, that's what Prey is. But I if I was making up a list of flaws with each game, like the flaws of Prey are so much more. And even if I was making up a list of things that are great, the list of things for Part 2 would be way longer than Prey. Like Prey, Last of Us Part 2, maybe like the most like incredible like achievement in game development that I've ever played. Like, if it was a list of best games, there's no contest. For me, Prey does still hold out. But playing through it again, I realized that even on our group like public list, I want The Last of Us 2 to be above Prey. So I'm not.
Yeah.
I was when we were going to start playing this, I was prepared to have this fight, but no, I think it needs to go above. But I also think it needs to go above. I'll just slide it to the side for now.
Where is it? Sorry, what was that last bit you said?
I want it above the original Last of Us, though.
I know that I know that I don't get a deciding vote in here, but I agree with Joe on that.
No, you can sway the conversation. Like me and Ollie need to end up agreeing. So, but any extra weight in our corner is very much agreeable. So can I say how I'd want my list, and we'll see what that looks like, and go from there. So, for a while I was between The Last of Us Part 2 and Disco Elysium, and I had to literally, I just sat there thinking about it, like, and in the end, I decided I want Disco Elysium above it, just because it feels more special and unique. And I've played The Last of Us 1, I've played Uncharted games, like they're amazing games. But I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if Naughty Dog did it again, or like another company like grew, their talent to the level to do that. Whereas Disco Elysium just feels like a black sheep almost. Like I've just not seen anything like it, and who knows when I'll see something like it again. So I would go, Disco Elysium, Last of Us Part 2. I'd like to put Prey above The Last of Us, the original, and then I guess it would be Doom would be the last one in the top 5, and then Undertale would get pushed to 6.
I feel like with this list, now we've done 21 games, we really are compiling the cream of the crop needs to be at the top. And in terms of Disco Elysium, Last of Us Part 1 and 2, Doom and Undertale, Prey cannot stand with those games. It just can't. Like, Prey is like, I had fun with it, but like it is obtuse to the point where people stop playing it, as we can witness with Sam. He was like, "It's too stupid." Like
it was basically a commercial flop. It had mixed reviews. And anytime like when you're saying this stuff about it, like I'm not like secretly angry inside, Sam. Like I'm like, yeah, no, I get how it would do that. Like shooting that pistol at an enemy that doesn't react in any way from taking shots with bullets. I get if you're going into it as a shooter how you wouldn't enjoy that. But for me, like creative solutions and like it never taking control away from you, and just the exploration and just the giving me just full control, like I just loved every moment of just being in that world. Like I get why people don't, but it's just like it's such a special game. Like it's like I love immersive sims, and it's my favorite one, and so it's like right like at the top of my personal favorite lists. And like while I can look at like Doom and Undertale and be like, yeah, both obviously amazing games. Like I mean, would either of them be in like your top 10, Ollie? Doom or Undertale for like personal favorite games?
No, I don't think they are. I've written my top 10 and neither of them are in there. But I mean, comparatively, you're saying Prey is the game that was just made for you, or you feel like that.
Yeah.
And it's sitting in second. I said the same thing about Killer 7, and it's been delegated to 10th because I couldn't get up any higher than that.
No, it's because I'm better at debating than you. That's what it comes down to.
I just can't. I'm just like, okay.
You relent. That's why. I'm trying to, we're basically meeting in the middle, but trying to get the list as much to what our personal list would be as possible. But Prey is like, look, I've done my personal list as well, and I can't remember where Prey ended up.
I think Prey needs to go below Doom because Doom is really Prey's dad, isn't it?
No, it's not. Prey is like it's not because Prey isn't a first-person shooter. So I have Prey at my number 5. Yeah, I have Prey at number 5. It's surrounded by Hollow Knight and Disco Elysium as like my favorite games of all time. Like that's where it is for me. It's above Halo 3.
You could have it at number 5 on this list as well.
2.
You could have it at number 5 on this list too. Yeah,
that's not like a goal.
Good suggestion.
Okay, so let's do. Okay, well let's do Prey vs Last of Us. So are we happy? Disco Elysium. And then The Last of Us Part 2 is 1, 2. Is that agreed?
Yeah, I mean, The Last of Us Part 2 is the most complete thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. Like,
so it's above Last of Us 1.
Guys, can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Can I just ask, what is it going to take? I'm not asking for Part 2. I'm not expecting that. What is it going to take to knock Disco Elysium off the top spot?
I don't know, man.
That's a genuine question. Like, what needs to happen?
What
more do you want?
I have some games that would, as I, like Disco Elysium was right there with Prey. Like I have like I think 3 games that would 4 games that would top Disco Elysium.
Yeah,
I
I've
won't
got 4
spoil
above
them
it as well. I've got 4 above it as well on my top 10 of all time. But it's just like this. I don't know, man. The game is just, you need to play it. It's like it's just amazing. I don't really know what to say because it's that good.
Yeah.
Speechless.
Yeah, it's not even like, oh, it's so good because the story is so good, or it's so good because this thing's so good. It's like, I feel like it literally speaks to you as a person and like enriches your life.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And individually, like, whereas The Last of Us Part 2, you can take something away from it. We're all like, based on our personal experience and kind of like the way we read into things, we're all still taking away a relatively similar thing. Disco Elysium, like, who knows what you're going to get out of it, because there's so many ways it can go and like routes that you can tackle things. And even from when you're like speccing your character, like you're setting yourself up to hear like, you know, hundreds of hours of different dialogue depending on how you spec your character. It is crazy.
Oh, that sounds like a bit of a nightmare for me, to be honest. After,
But no, but it's all done lovingly, and it's never locking you out of doing things. Like, it honestly,
cool.
There's no combat.
And because it's like, you get to make decisions. You're not expected to suddenly draw a gun and shoot someone. It's like, would you like to draw your gun? And the game will freeze.
Yeah.
It's like, so you can think about what you're doing. I just feel like Disco Elysium, I saw myself in that game in a way I never thought I would ever see. It's like, it's
fair
crazy.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It also had the advantage of not to focus on it too much, but like I knew people liked it, but I didn't have like crazy expectations for it. I was just like, oh, this would be a cool, interesting, different type of game for the podcast. Whereas obviously The Last of Us Part 2 had like max hype, and so it was I guess it had the unexpected side as well, which helped it in its favor, I guess.
Yeah,
cool, fair enough. Well, fine then. I'll let it stay number one, guys.
Cheers, Sam.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
You've convinced me.
Yeah.
You won't have a strop and walk out the podcast. Okay, so Disco Elysium, Last of Us Part 2. So Last of Us Part 2 is above the original Last of Us, Ollie. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, it is the most complete game I've ever played in my life. Can't believe it exists. Can't believe people made it. Last of Us 1, I just had more fun. And that's kind of what I'm looking to do with a game, is have fun. And, you know, even Disco Elysium, it's grim as it can get, I had fun because of the silly things you can do in it. But yeah, I had more fun with the first one, and I would recommend it to anyone. But the second one is also amazing, so that's fine by me.
Is there a better like stealth or horror game than The Last of Us Part 2? Like, even separately, like, is there a better stealth game? And as a separate question, is there a better horror game than The Last of Us Part 2?
I mean, I'm not the person to ask, because I stopped playing Resident Evil because Mr. X scared me.
I honestly, mate, people that are like, oh, Resident Evil's too scary, it's like, have you played The Last of Us? If you have, it's The Last of Us on another level. Like, Resident Evil is cheesy, it's stupid.
It's not necessarily that it was like Mr. X himself isn't like super scary. It's just so stressful.
Yeah,
like he's just always there. It's like, just piss off, mate.
It's why I didn't play Resident Evil 3.
I'm trying to get to the bottom.
It's because is it Nemesis in Resident Evil 3?
Yeah. To be fair, like, not to be some sort of fanboy defender, but Nemesis is only in it for about 5 minutes, and it's scripted, so it's not the same.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally, I found Last of Us Part 2 like so horrifying and so upsetting. Like, just the stalkers are just absolutely horrendous. The clickers, genuinely, like, hearing that sound makes my skin crawl. Yeah, like the horror, even like the human horror elements of it are horrible, and the stealth is so much fun. Like, it's just because the AI is so good, and there's so much, like, when you first encounter the Seraphites and they're like sacrificing that, or they're killing that guy, then you've got that whole car park that you can like climb up through and everything. Like, there's just so much to do in there. And then obviously, I mean, for me, I'm very bad at being stealthy, so it just immediately goes to, you know, just falls apart, and then I just have to run around shooting people with a shotgun.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you can do that is definitely good. Like, a lot of stealth games that have a lot of stealth mechanics, like, for example, Metal Gear Solid, shooting your way out is never really an option because the controls are literally made in a way that they don't want you to do that. Whereas
I
in
feel
Last
like
of
the
Us,
older ones, the newer ones, you can shoot your way out.
Oh yeah, I'm talking like 1 to 3 was like,
yeah,
you can't even move and shoot at the same time.
But that's not intentional. That was like just fixed camera angles and limitations. And
yeah, because they want you to be sneaky, right? Whereas The Last of Us is like,
I don't think
you can
the
be
fact that as soon as
shoot.
they got to a point where they could do good controls, they did good controls and shooting.
Yeah,
I feel like they would have loved to have good shooting in it. I think you're giving a bit too much credit there.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 1 Disco Elysium, number 2 Last of Us Part 2. So then it's Prey versus the original Last of Us. Where does the original Last of Us sit in your personal top 10, Ollie? Not to make this all about that, but out of just so we're all aware.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7th.
Okay. So it's like it's actually an irrelevant, because that was my whole thing with Prey. Is it's like one of my top games against group games that we like. I'm trying to think. Okay, I'm not gonna drag this out, but I'm gonna give you a one ultimatum offer that you can take or not.
Okay.
Can I put Prey as a Last of Us sandwich? Can it be the filler if you can have free reign to put Halo Infinite wherever you want? I will sacrifice Halo.
Mate, Halo Infinite's already at the bottom. It's already number 12.
Don't take it, Ollie. Don't take it,
You
mate.
can put it right at the bottom, even just as a troll if you want, if I can put Prey above The Last of Us.
No. The offer I will take is that Prey and Killer 7 need to be touching.
No.
Because Killer 7 is my game that I feel like was made for me and it was amazing. I've never seen anything like it. And Prey is yours. And it's not fair that they're at the top and bottom of the list like that.
That's not fair, because the complaints for Prey are mainly just not liking the gameplay or a little bit buggy. The complaints for Killer 7 are it's a very flawed game, but it's really cool. That's Killer 7. The flaws of Killer 7 are numerous. We spent almost an hour talking about them the other week.
Stalemate, then.
Let's just put Prey in between Last of Us. I can't argue anymore. It's
Ollie,
fine.
Ollie, this is literally what Joe said was going to happen.
No, I can't.
You absolutely crumbled, mate.
We've been recording for an hour and 50 minutes, and it doesn't matter what I say, Joe will find a way out of it. He will not give up. I know that about him. He will not relent on this. And it takes someone else coming in who loves The Last of Us Part 2, has also played Prey and doesn't like it, and that is not enough. What is enough? Do you know what I mean?
I reckon if you cracked on for another 10 minutes, you could get him to put it down at number 4 underneath Last of Us Part 1. But that's just me. He's not saying no.
Right. So what I said I'd do that as the choice. So you don't want to take the Halo deal?
No, because it's already number 12, mate. No one's even looking below 10.
Okay. So are you relenting now about Prey going between The Last of Us?
Ollie, we've got him on the ropes, mate.
Yeah, I'm not relenting now. Prey, The Last of Us 1 and 2 need to be together.
Yeah.
Okay, tell you what.
I'm happy to put it above Doom and knock Undertale off the 5.
Can I bring the stake back? I'll let it go under the original last. No. This I'm saying no. Look, because I'm relenting here. I'm doing you a favor.
Right, okay.
This is an offer you can't afford to miss, Ollie.
Okay.
Once it's gone, it's gone. So I will not do any more arguments. Prey will go under the original Last of Us.
Yep.
Yeah, and so it will now be number 4 under Doom, which isn't what I want, but it will have a stake to say that it will never be argued under Doom, but that doesn't mean we can't put other games above it. We can put other games above it, but we're just not going to suddenly, in 2 weeks, you're going to go Doom made FPSs, it's got to go above because it just got to, When people see this list, they're going to be thinking, why is Prey above Doom? What even is Prey? You can't do any of that stuff in the future. Prey is always above Doom. That's where it is. But other things can go above Prey.
Okay, I will take that deal.
Okay.
And to show that deal, I'm going to put a picture of a chain.
Yes,
these
linked.
two are now chained together.
Brilliant.
Which is good for me because I think Doom needs to be near the top. And if you're always going to be pushing for Prey to be near the top, then Doom's going to stay near the top.
Don't forget that I loved Doom. I'm not none of my thing is Doom is rubbish. That has never been my argument. But
it's not Killer 7 out of the top 10 though. Okay, Sam, you should watch a Killer 7 trailer after this.
I watched the episode.
Oh, did you?
It looks absolutely unhinged.
Yeah, it's unhinged.
I think
it was a GameCube game, right?
Yeah, but they remade it for PC. So,
okay.
I think watching our podcast or a trailer is the way to consume that game, rather than having to physically control it.
Unbelievable. Right, so there we go then.
All right, do you want to read out the fresh top 5?
I'm actually going to go all the way down to 6, but I will. So Disco Elysium is number 1. Last of Us Part 2 is number 2. Last of Us Part 1 is number 3. Prey is in 4. 5 is Doom, and they're chained together. And 6 is Undertale.
Okay. Brilliant.
Are you happy with that, Joe? You don't look like you are.
I mean, like, yeah, it's always the compromise. Like to be, I was going into this. I even kind of joked about it with you guys before, saying about like, you know, we're gonna have a battle between Prey and The Last of Us Part 2, and then I realized that no, you know what? I want Last of Us Part 2 to go above, and you know, there's no point. You know, I'm not gonna do the fight just for like the podcast. Like, so I'm happy with that part. I'd put it above the original Last. Like, I see a much bigger leap between the original Last of Us and Part 2. Like, I agree with what you say about the first one's a little bit more lighthearted, still really dark and maybe a bit more fun. But like I find the Last of Us Part 2 just so much more impressive than the original.
Oh
like,
yeah, so do I. So do I,
definitely.
I agree with that. It is definitely more impressive. It's just like, you know, I don't know, if someone played The Last of Us Part 1 and then they were like, oh, it was good, but I didn't really like the you know, I turned the blood off. I'd be like, don't go near the second one because it's horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so interesting hearing your insights on the game. So obviously you're a director. Is there anything you want to plug? Like, do you like any contact details if people are looking for someone for like what sort of stuff you say about you doing music videos and commercial stuff? Like, what sort of other stuff are you working on?
So music videos, commercials, like narrative as well. Just like quite a lot of stuff really. But yeah, nothing. I mean, I'm writing a couple of things at the moment with a couple of friends, like a couple projects and everything.
Oh, cool.
But hopefully something to talk about soon.
Is there a website you want us to kind of link people to or anything if they want to either kind of look through some of the stuff that you've done, if they're curious or if they, you know, are looking for a director?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. My Instagram is just at Sam Rookes, which is ROOKES. And then website is samparrisrooks.com.
Okay, awesome. And then
for all your director and editor needs.
Time to do an infomercial.
Exactly. Yeah.
All of that will be linked down below as well. So yeah, go check some of Sam's other stuff out. If you're curious, is there any parting words you want to say to the Bonus Points community while we have you here?
I'm glad that you guys gave me a platform to finally unleash my quite unhinged adoration for this game. I just absolutely love it, and obviously love watching the show as well. Hopefully when you guys do Tony Hawk Pro Skater Remaster, I can come back on, and we can finally knock Disco Elysium off the top.
I did play that and I did like it. Don't know if it's going to knock a. I don't know if Disco should be worried or not. I got another fun challenge for the Bonus Points community. Sam obviously had a big gap not playing games. Seems like recently getting really into it. Any recommendations of your favorite games over maybe I guess the last 15 years? Leave them in the comments, and then maybe Sam could pick up some other cool games that he can play.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I will say that I've sort of ruined myself by coming back in and playing Last of Us Part 2 because I've tried other games and nothing else is just
There's one game. There is one.
What, Disco Elysium?
Yep.
Which I've not played yet, but no, definitely. Yeah, I'm very much enjoying playing again. So 100%.
Sweet.
All right. What's coming up, Ollie, in the future?
Well. We have Beginner's Guide, September 9th. It's an hour and a half game on PC. You can easily play it. It's probably pretty cheap too. Death Stranding, September 23rd, which has just come to Game Pass on PC, if you've got PC.
Oh, that game.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's one that you played then. There's one that you played.
Yep.
Yoshi's Island, October 7th. And we can either stop there, or you said you spoke to a guest the other day and you've never told me what game it is, so we could go up to that point. And
no, they've not committed to one yet. So let's.
I was hoping you were going to tell me on air.
No, I've given them more time. So they suggested a few games of varying different eras and styles. But they haven't nailed one down yet. But either way, all of the options were interesting options. So it's going to be.
Well, I'd like to give one more then.
Go for
one
it.
more after Yoshi's Island. So just around Halloween time, October 21st, we'll be playing Resident Evil Remake, which is the remake of the very first game. So that should be pretty good and spooky.
Anything else? Any other housekeeping, Ollie, before we let everyone leave this very, very long podcast? Thank you, everyone who's still with us.
Yeah, if you're still listening, we're Twitch affiliated, which basically means... I mean, it's great that we managed to get there. Thanks so much, everyone. It means you can support us directly, or if you get these little emotes and stuff like that. I don't really know much. I've not done it yet. So that would be really cool if you could check that out. And I guess best of threes same as, and we've got one-off video that may or may not be out yet. So yeah.
Awesome, brilliant. So thank you everyone for listening. New one of these every other couple of weeks. Cheers guys. Thanks for joining in. As always, we love listening to all of your feedback. So any comments about this conversation. It's obviously a hot topic, so anything that we got wrong, got right, any things that we may not have noticed, feel free to leave them down below. But apart from that, thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you all in the next one. Bye.
Cheers, bye.
See ya.